Here's a simple way that I've done it. You can do this with your kids or even adults. So here's the backpack, right? This backpack is filled with books, right? The idea of the body keeps score means something may happen to you and you might suppress it in your mind subconsciously or consciously, but your body remembers what happens. And if you don't go back and deal with that, it just keeps adding more to the backpack. What happens to the backpack? It stays heavy, and you don't realize you start thinking that carrying this stuff is normal. You start thinking that me having this weight is how I should be feeling all the time. And that's not true. Awareness is the first A. Understanding is this backpack is heavy because there's stuff in it that doesn't have to be there. Like, it's not just a you're this, that's it. No, it's a step-by-step journey. There's hope in the journey with that. Bessel van der Kolk wrote this book called The Body Keeps Score, which I love him, by the way. But how do we explain maybe carrying feelings or even trauma to a little kid? I believe if we can explain it to a kid, then it's going to help adults even feel better. So this is a way how I explain it to my daughter. She's 6 years old. And at first, when I first started realizing that she had big feelings, I wanted to help her understand what was going on and help her understand how do we actually solve it. I didn't want to keep yelling at her. I didn't want her to keep feeling frustrated. And at 6, you don't have all the language for what's going on in your head. So here's a simple way that I've done it. You can do this with your kids or even adults. So here's the backpack, right? This backpack is filled with books, right? And I do most of my videos from a Christian background or a Christian foundation. So this backpack is filled with books. What I would do with her, and you can do it, is I would have her say, hey, what happened today? How's today going? Are you feeling anything? Do you have anything in your backpack you want to talk about? And at first, it's usually the most randomest thing ever. But if you listen long enough, you'll start to find out what happened and what she might be carrying. So the idea of the body keeps score means something may happen to you and you might suppress it in your mind subconsciously or consciously, but your body remembers what happens. And if you don't go back and deal with that, it just keeps adding more to the backpack. So if I did this, I have her take a book out of the backpack, right? Here's a book. Let's talk about what happened. This is one feeling that could be in there, right? Here's another book by one of the GOATs, Alex Hormozy. We talk about what happened. Here's another book, right? And what we realize is that the more we can talk about this and process this, the lighter this backpack is going to get. Now imagine going days without talking about it. What happens to the backpack? It stays heavy, and you don't realize you start thinking that carrying this stuff is normal. You start thinking that me having this weight is how I should be feeling all the time. And that's not true. I can say that I've carried stuff for years and had no idea because I just suppressed it because at the moment I didn't know how to deal with it, or I didn't want to deal with it, or I didn't have the tools. So me thinking if I can show my 6-year-old these things now, when she's older, she's a teenager, she's a woman, she'll know how to, cast her cares on the Lord. She'll know how to process that I can stop for a second and really feel what happened, and I can talk about it. I can get it out my body through breath work, through working out. There's something I can do about it. A lot of times someone just might not have the tools to actually do something that they are wanting to do. Now, if you're an adult, you probably got a backpack, a suitcase, a briefcase. Like, you're going wrecking. Like, you have a lot going on. And one of the things that you can start to do is pause for a second right? If you can't get to a therapist, or you're in between therapy sessions, or you're not going to therapy yet, pause for a second and ask myself, what am I carrying? This is one of my favorite things to do, is to start journaling. If I'm always feeling overwhelmed, if I'm always frustrated, if I'm always short-tempered, something happened. Like something happened that I don't know about, right? And you may find yourself tracing back for months or years. But a framework we use in my coaching, where I help people with their faith and their fitness together, is we use the 4-part framework, the AUAI. The first one is the A, which is awareness. We become aware of, hey, I'm carrying something, and I notice that this is heavy, and I'm starting to notice that it's affecting me in some areas. Now, I'm not a therapist. I know a lot of therapists who I can refer you to. This is just me as a coach explaining how we do it. So the awareness is, I know this is heavy. Something has happened, or is happening, that is starting to, like, usually you start to realize it's starting to leak in other areas of your life. Like you're starting to realize that, hey, I was carrying something, it didn't feel like it was bothering me, but now it's starting to show up in another area. So awareness is the first A. Understanding is, this backpack is heavy because there's stuff in it that doesn't have to be there. So this is understanding. Understanding is, I'm aware something has happened. Understanding now is, okay, why did it happen? Why do I always feel mad at this certain time? Something that I noticed with Aaliyah was, before we started homeschooling her, was when she would get in the car from school, when we picked her up from her last when she was in kindergarten, she would be like frustrated, mad, everything, and she would get in the car and like almost like spaz at me. Now, if anyone knows Aaliyah, my 6-year-old, you know, Aaliyah is like attached to me. She's like at my hip, like she's always in my face and all of that stuff, which I love. She would do that, and for a while, at first, I was like, "What is she doing? Like, I'm her dad. Why is she going crazy?" And I started realizing she's suppressing something while she's at school, right? Probably sit down for 8 hours. Don't talk now. Stand in this line. You can't go to the bathroom whenever you want. I'm not going to go there today. So she's suppressing all this stuff all day. I also knew the year before that, when we would have her ride the bus and take the bus back, when she would ride the bus, a certain bus driver made her comfortable. So she was cool. When she would come back home off the bus, she just felt super uneasy. And we believe it was the bus driver. Nothing happened, but we took her out. With that, she was suppressing things, so she wasn't talking about it. And later on, we started to find out, asking her questions randomly, she would start talking about, this happened. This is how this person is to me. She's understanding now. She's processing, something has happened. I understand now why I was mad, and I want to talk about it. So you have awareness, you have understanding. Acceptance, that's the third one. Something has happened. I accept that something has happened. I accept that I know kind of why I was acting the way I was acting, or carrying what I was carrying. And accepting doesn't mean that it's necessarily right. It's just accepting responsibilities for what's going to happen next, which is integration. What we did for Aaliyah, and I'll tell you what we do for our clients. What we did for Aaliyah was, hey, let's talk about it in detail now. What can we do now with what we know? What can we do now with the information we know? Like, she had a little girl who, she would always say she was mean. We would say, hey, can we pray for her now? And what can we do also in our part? Do we need to actually separate from her? Or do we need to, what can we do now consistently so that we don't end back up carrying all of these things in our backpack of feelings? For people who I work with faith and fitness, I always say, usually they're not separate. As much as you think they are, they're not separate. Faith and fitness are not separate. Usually if they're good in the faith part, they're not in the fitness part. If they're good in the fitness part, they're not in the faith part. But together we start to find out, hey, you're aware that you're overweight. right? You're understanding what happened. You're accepting that I am overweight and I need to change. How are we going to implement some steps that we want to do? And the cool way of that is showing a person there is hope in the journey. Like, it's not just a you're this, that's it. No, it's a step-by-step journey. There's hope in the journey. With that also, you start to realize, even with the fitness side, with the faith side, hey, are you aware that you've been asking God for this thing for 30 years, but you haven't made a step? And they're starting to understand that I didn't make a step, so that's probably why I haven't moved yet. That could be the reason why right there. And then you start to find out I'm the issue probably right now. How do we integrate some things or implement some things to get us to not stay there? So that framework helps my clients, it helps my daughter, but for you who are listening, the body does keep score. Bessel van der Kolk, he's right. And it's proving in scripture tons of times about, broken bones and things of that nature. There's tons of scriptures about what the body keeping the score of what happened. That's really what it means. It means that you got hit with something and your body remembers it. You might have forgotten it, or you might think you have forgotten it, but it shows up some other time, some other where. Lastly, I remember a picture that I had where I was a young boy. I was 7 years old in the picture, and I remember the picture. And my dad was supposed to pick me up, and he didn't come. And I remember saying to myself, he repeatedly does not come. He says he's going to come, and then I'm usually left outside waiting for him, and then somebody has to make up an excuse of why he didn't show up. And I remember running into the house that day and saying, I'm not going to let anybody else in my heart. I don't even know where those words came from. Right? I'm pretty sure some of it was inspired by the enemy. Because if I close my heart, then I can't receive love. I can't give love. And I said to myself that day, literally, I'm not going to let anybody else into my heart. And it wasn't until like almost literally probably 30 years later, where lots of prayer, therapy, becoming aware, understanding, accepting, and implementing new things, that I was able to open my heart again. Now imagine if that happened to me when I was 7. What could you prevent your kid from facing or going through at their age? What could you do for yourself as an adult? The body kept the score. I thought, hey, this happened, I forgot about it, that's it. But what really happened was it started to become a part of me, a part of my identity that I don't let people in. That can lead to 30 different podcast episodes, especially with men. And sometimes women think that he just won't open up. No, something happened where he doesn't, and we're usually taught to just stay shut. Take this advice or these tips and see how they can help you. See how they can help your kid, and let's just live. Like, we want people to live better with our faith and fitness community, Word and Wealth Wellness. Our number one goal is to please Christ and then to walk out what he's called us to do. That's in your body and that's in your faith. They're not separate. Like, you're not a separate person from your faith or from your health. You're one person, and sometimes we just put ourselves in compartments to try to make sense of it, but they integrate. Be great, guys. I'm out of here.
Leave Daddy a review.
That's right. Leave us a 5-star review if this helped you. This helps me do more for the community and the little one that you just heard. Be good. Be great, guys.